People spend their entire lives running from death. I spent mine trying to find it. Not because I wanted to die, because I wanted answers, real answers. Every religion claimed to understand what happened after the final breath. Every philosopher had a different theory. Every scientist admitted the same thing. Nobody had ever returned with proof. At least, not anyone who could remember. My name is Ethan Carter. For nearly 9 years, I interviewed things no one else believed existed. Demons, haunted mirrors, shadow figures, things hiding beneath abandoned churches, creatures whispered about in forgotten journals. Most of them lied. Some told half-truths. A few refused to answer at all. But every interview taught me one lesson. Every supernatural being feared something. Demons feared names. Spirits feared memory. Ancient entities feared being forgotten. Even the devil feared time. Only one being had never been afraid of anything. Death, not the grim reaper, not a skeleton carrying a scythe, not an angel, not a demon, something older, something every civilization had tried and failed to describe. The first clue arrived inside a package with no return address. A plain brown envelope. No stamp, no fingerprints, no handwriting, only my name. Inside, there were 3 things: an old cassette tape, a folded photograph, and a single sentence typed on yellow paper. You have been asking the wrong questions. That was all, nothing else, no signature, no explanation. I almost threw it away. Until I looked at the photograph. It showed a man sitting across a wooden table. Someone else sat opposite him. The second figure had been scratched out completely, not blurred, not burned, scratch, as though someone desperately wanted to erase it. Yet, the chair remained visible. Something had been sitting there, something important. On the back of the photograph, one date, October 18th. I played the cassette for nearly 2 minutes. Nothing, only static, and then a voice, old, weak, barely breathing. If you're hearing this, it means I failed. Long silence. I asked death the wrong question. Static, more silence. Then, if you ever find it, don't ask when. The tape ended. No click, no goodbye. Just silence. I spent the next 3 weeks trying to identify the man in the photograph. No records, no newspaper, no police report, nothing. It was as though he had never existed. Until, a retired archivist called me back. I've seen that table before. My heart stopped. Where? He hesitated. I shouldn't tell you. I promised. Promised who? Long silence. Finally, a man who died 30 years ago. 2 days later, I drove 6 hours into northern Montana. The archivist lived alone, a tiny wooden house surrounded by pine trees. He opened the door before I knocked, as if he'd been expecting me. He looked 90, maybe older. His hands trembled constantly. But his eyes carried something worse than fear, recognition. You brought the photograph. It wasn't a question. You know this man? I knew him. What happened? The old man looked toward the forest. He kept asking questions. What questions? The same ones you're asking. I leaned forward. Did he really interview death? His lips tightened. I told him not to. So it happened? Another silence. Then he whispered. I watched him leave. He never came back. He invited me inside. Every wall was covered with clocks. Large clocks, small clocks, pocket watches, broken watches. None of them worked. Everyone stopped. Exactly at 3:17. I frowned. They're all broken? No. They stopped. When? Same moment. What happened at 3:17? The old man's face became pale. He asked when he would die. My pulse quickened. The tape said not to ask when. He nodded slowly. Because that's the first mistake. There are others? 3. I waited. He stood painfully, walked toward an old bookshelf, pulled out a thin notebook, leather cover, no title. He handed it to me. We don't open it. I stared. You just gave it to me. I know. Then why can't I open it? Because once you read the first page, you'll keep reading. I laughed nervously. It can't be that dangerous. He didn't smile. It isn't dangerous. It's inevitable. That answer bothered me more than if he had threatened me. I placed the notebook on the table. What happened to the man in the photograph? The old archivist closed his eyes. He learned. Learned what? The exact second. The exact second of what? He looked directly at me. The exact second his life would end. I swallowed. And he spent the next 11 years waiting. The room suddenly felt colder. What happened when the day finally arrived? The old man didn't answer. Instead, he asked me something unexpected. Ethan, have you ever wondered whether knowing your future changes it? I thought for a moment. I don't know. He nodded. Neither did he. Outside, the wind disappeared, not slowed, stopped. Every branch became perfectly still. The old man's breathing changed. He stood, very slowly looking toward the window. No, he whispered. Not today. I followed his gaze. Nothing. Only trees, snow, silence. What is it? His voice cracked. It found you. My heartbeat quickened. What found me? He didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed my arm. Harder than someone his age should have been able to. Listen carefully. You still have time. Time for what? If anyone ever offers you an interview, say no. A knock echoed through the house. 3 slow knocks. No one had driven up. No footsteps. No sound. Just knock, knock, knock. The old man turned completely white. He whispered something I barely heard. It's early. Another knock. This time, closer. As if it came from inside the walls, the clocks. Every broken clock in the room ticked once, then stopped again. The old man released my arm. His shoulders dropped, almost peacefully. I've been waiting 30 years. He smiled, the first smile I'd seen. I suppose. It's finally my turn. He walked toward the front door, slowly, without fear, without hesitation. I shouted after him, "Wait!" He stopped, one hand resting on the doorknob. Without turning around, He spoke one final sentence. The interview always begins with someone else's ending. He opened the door, and the world outside was no longer there. There was no forest, no snow, no sky, only white, not bright, not dark, just white. The doorway no longer led outside. It opened into a place that looked unfinished. The old archivist stepped forward. His footsteps made no sound. I grabbed his shoulder. "What is this?" He gently removed my hand. "You shouldn't follow. I can't just let you. You already have." His voice sounded different, calmer, almost weightless. He looked younger, not physically. Something inside him had become lighter. For the first time, he wasn't afraid. A figure appeared in the distance, impossible to measure, maybe 50 feet away, maybe 5 miles. Every time I blinked, the distance changed. It wasn't walking, yet it was getting closer. No face, no robe, no skeleton, nothing human, just a silhouette. Perfectly black, as though someone had cut a human shape out of reality itself. I couldn't even tell whether it had arms or eyes or a head. Yet, I knew it was looking at me. The old archivist smiled. I wondered what you would look like. The silhouette stopped. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them moved. Almost an entire minute passed. Then, the archivist nodded once, like two old friends greeting each other after many years apart. Without another word, he walked toward the figure. Their shapes met. For one impossible second, they became one shadow. Then, both disappeared. The white world vanished. The front door slammed shut. I stumbled backward onto the wooden floor. My heart pounded so violently I thought it might burst. The house was silent again. Outside, the forest had returned. Snow drifted through the trees. The wind moved naturally. Everything looked normal, except the house, every clock, read exactly 3:18, every single one. They had moved 1 minute. I searched the entire cabin. No body, no footprints, no sign the old man had ever lived there. The bedroom was empty. The kitchen contained unopened cans older than I was. Dust covered everything, except the chair where he had been sitting, still warm. The notebook remained on the table, exactly where he had left it. I stared at it for nearly 10 minutes, his warning echoed inside my mind. Once you read the first page, you'll keep reading. I should have left. Any sane person would have. Instead, I opened it. The first page contained only 6 words. Death never accepts accidental meetings. Nothing else. I turned the page. Page 2. Every line had been written by hand. Different handwriting, different ink, different decades. Almost like dozens of people had shared the same notebook. The first entry read, "I thought I found death. I was wrong. Death found me first." Another page, "If you receive the invitation, do not destroy it. It always returns." Another, "I burned the photograph. It appeared inside my bedroom the following morning." Another, "I buried the cassette. My son found it beneath his pillow." My breathing slowed. Every writer described different years, different countries, different names, yet every story ended the same way. The final sentence, always identical. I accepted the interview. The final page was blank, almost at the very bottom, one fresh sentence, written in ink that still looked wet. Now, it is your turn. The notebook slipped from my hands. I stepped backward. No, I whispered. No. Something fell from between the pages. A folded envelope, cream-colored, sealed with black wax. No address, only my name, Ethan Carter. The handwriting matched. Nothing, not elegant, not messy. Perfect. Every letter looked impossible, like it had been written by someone who had invented the alphabet. My fingers trembled. I broke the seal. Inside, one card. Black, smooth, heavier than paper. On the front, only one sentence. Your interview has been scheduled. Below it, a date. 7 days from today. Below that, a time. 3:17 a.m. On the back, one location, no address, only coordinates. Exactly like the coordinates that had once led me to the mirror. My stomach tightened. Whoever, whatever, had arranged this already knew I would say yes. I laughed, not because anything was funny, because this was ridiculous. There had to be an explanation. Someone was manipulating me. Someone had spent years constructing an elaborate psychological trap. I had exposed cults before, fake hauntings, professional illusionists. Maybe this was simply the greatest performance ever created. I folded the invitation, placed it inside my jacket, picked up my cameras, the notebook, the photograph, the cassette, everything. I drove away without looking back. The first sign appeared 34 miles later. Every roadside clock read 3:17, gas stations, banks, church towers, electronic billboards, car dashboards, even my phone. 3:17, I checked the time online. 11:42 a.m. My phone insisted it was 3:17. Every website loaded normally except the time. I restarted it. Nothing changed. I removed the battery pack. The screen remained on, still showing 3:17. That night I didn't sleep. Every clock inside my apartment stopped exactly. 3:17. I unplugged them, removed batteries, smashed one against the wall. It still displayed 3:17. Around midnight, someone knocked. 3 slow knocks, exactly like before. I froze. No one should have known my address. Another knock. I checked the security camera. No one. The hallway was empty. Yet, the knocking continued. Not outside. Inside the apartment, behind my bedroom door. I lived alone. Very slowly, I turned toward the hallway. The bedroom door was closed. I never closed it. Another knock from the other side. 3 slow taps. Almost patient. Then, a voice, quiet, calm, neither male nor female. Ethan? The air inside the apartment became impossibly cold. You still have 6 days? I didn't answer. The voice waited, not impatiently, not threateningly. Simply waiting. You still have 6 days? Silence returned. The knocking stopped. Every sound inside the apartment disappeared, even the hum of my refrigerator, even the traffic outside. I stood there, unable to breathe, unable to move. Finally, I forced myself toward the bedroom. One step, another. My hand reached the doorknob. It felt warm, almost human. I pulled the door open. Nothing. The room was empty. Exactly as I had left it. The bed, the desk, the bookshelf, everything normal, except the invitation. It no longer rested inside my jacket. It lay perfectly centered on my pillow. I didn't touch it, not immediately. Instead, I searched every inch of the apartment. Closets, windows, bathroom, kitchen. Nothing. No sign anyone had entered. The security system showed no movement, no open doors, no broken locks. According to every camera, I had been completely alone. I finally picked up the invitation. Something had changed. The date remained the same. The coordinates remained the same. But another sentence had appeared. Attendance is voluntary. I laughed quietly. No, I whispered. I'm done. I tore the card in half. And again, until it became dozens of tiny black pieces. I flushed them down the toilet. Watched every fragment disappear beneath the water. For the first time all day, I felt better. Maybe that had been the test. Maybe refusing was enough. The doorbell rang, once short. Normal. I checked the monitor. A delivery driver holding a small package. I frowned. I hadn't ordered anything. I opened the door. Mr. Carter? Yes? Package for you? No signature required? He handed me the box. Turned around. Walked away. I glanced at the shipping label. No sender. Only my name. Again inside. Another invitation. Perfect, untorn, waiting. I slammed the box shut. No. My voice echoed through the apartment. This isn't funny. No answer. Only silence. The next morning, every email inside my inbox had disappeared, except one. No sender, no subject. The message contained only 4 words. Please don't be late. I disconnected my internet. The email remained open. I shut down my computer. The screen stayed on. The message never disappeared. By the 3rd day, I stopped trying to explain anything. Instead, I became obsessed with one question. Had anyone ever survived? Not escaped. Survived. I spent 42 straight hours searching every archive I could access. Medical journals, police reports, private investigations, religious texts, university libraries, buried newspaper collections. Eventually, I found one name appearing over and over again. Dr. Samuel Reeves, professor of comparative religion. Missing, returned, no explanation. The article mentioned something unusual. After returning, Dr. Reeves resigned from every university, sold everything he owned, bought a lighthouse on a tiny island off the coast of Maine. He had refused every interview for more than 40 years, until now. I drove 18 hours without stopping. Rain followed me almost the entire way. The lighthouse stood alone, on black cliffs overlooking an angry sea. Every window had been painted black. The front door opened before I knocked. A man in his 70s looked directly at me. I wondered how many days you had left. I froze. How did you know? He smiled sadly. You have the same eyes? What eyes? The ones that stop sleeping? He invited me inside. Unlike the archivist's house, there were no clocks. Not one. Only books. Thousands of them. Every language imaginable. Ancient texts, modern psychology, physics, theology, history, death, everything. You interviewed it. He nodded. 41 years ago? What happened? I survived. Hope exploded inside my chest. You escaped? His smile vanished. No. I survived. They are not the same thing. He poured 2 cups of tea. Neither of us touched them. I noticed something strange. There were no mirrors anywhere inside the lighthouse, not even in the bathroom. Where are your mirrors? I destroyed them. Why? He looked toward the dark windows. It still checks. My heartbeat slowed. He nodded once. Death? You saw it? No. You spoke with it? No. You interviewed death? Without seeing it? He leaned forward. For the first time, his voice became almost a whisper. Ethan, you never see death. You only think you do. Cold spread through my chest. I don't understand. Neither did I. Not until years later. He stood, walked toward an old cabinet, unlocked it with 3 different keys, removed a thin leather folder. Inside, 1 photograph. He handed it to me. It showed a young Samuel Reeves sitting alone. Across from him, an empty chair, exactly like the photograph inside my envelope. No one was there? He shook his head. I thought someone was. What do you mean? I remember talking. I remember asking questions. I remember hearing answers. He swallowed slowly, but every camera recorded me speaking to empty air. A wave of nausea hit me. The cassette, the mirror, everything. No second voice, only silence. Samuel looked directly into my eyes. It doesn't speak with sound. It speaks using certainty. I frowned. What does that mean? You don't hear the answers. You know them. The moment it answers, you become completely certain. No doubt, no hesitation. As though the truth had always existed inside your own mind. I couldn't breathe. That was impossible. Terrifyingly impossible. Because if he was right, no recording would ever capture death. Only the person asking the questions. Samuel slowly reached into his pocket. He placed something on the table. A black business card, identical to mine, except the date had faded away. I kept mine for 41 years. You never threw it away? I tried. It always came back. Outside, thunder rolled across the ocean. The lighthouse shook. Samuel's expression changed. He looked toward the painted windows. No, he whispered. Not yet. 3 slow knocks echoed from somewhere inside the lighthouse. Not the front door, not the walls. Below us, deep beneath the stone floor. Knock, knock, knock. Samuel closed his eyes. Then, he looked at me. You've made a mistake. What mistake? You came here 1 day too early. The knocking came again, louder this time, and then a calm voice rose from beneath the lighthouse. Ethan, you have 5 days. The voice faded, not because it became quieter, because my mind refused to follow it. The knocking stopped. The lighthouse became silent again. Samuel didn't move. He didn't even blink. His eyes remained fixed on the floor beneath us. I told you. It always knows. I looked toward the basement door. A heavy steel hatch. Rust covered every hinge. 3 thick locks, chains, fresh ones. Not old, new, as if someone still needed them. "What's down there?" Samuel answered immediately. "Nothing." Then, after a long silence, "That's the problem." "What do you mean?" He slowly sat down. "When I returned, I believed the interview had ended. I was wrong. It never ends." The words settled inside my chest like ice. "You still hear it?" "No." "You still see it?" "No." "Then what never ends?" He smiled. The saddest smile I had ever seen. "The waiting?" Rain slammed against the lighthouse windows. For a second, the painted glass flashed white. Lightning, the room went dark, then bright again. In that brief flash, I saw someone standing beside Samuel, a tall silhouette, perfectly still. I blinked. Gone. Samuel noticed my expression. "You saw someone." I nodded slowly. There wasn't anyone there. "I know." "Then what did I see?" He looked away. "It lets you believe. You're never alone." A chill crawled across my arms. "You mean it wasn't real?" He didn't answer. Instead, he asked something unexpected. "Ethan, when was the last time you slept?" I thought. "Yesterday? The day before?" No, I couldn't remember. "You don't remember?" "No, you won't. It begins with sleep." "What begins?" "The interview." I laughed. "This is impossible." Samuel nodded. "I know. I said the same thing." He walked toward a dusty bookshelf, removed an old cassette recorder, placed it in front of me. "I've listened to this every birthday for 41 years. He pressed play. Static. Long silence. Then his own voice. Young. Confident. "What are you?" Silence. Another question. "Can people escape death?" Silence. Then, "You know," young Samuel whispered, "I don't remember asking that." The tape continued. Question after question, always followed by silence, but every answer, young Samuel responded to perfectly, as though someone had spoken. The recording ended. He switched it off. "You see?" I nodded slowly. "The answers were never recorded because only I could hear certainty." Outside, the ocean roared. Something enormous crashed against the cliffs. The entire lighthouse trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Samuel stood. His face had become pale. "He's closer." "Who?" "You still think death comes?" "It doesn't." "What does that mean?" His breathing grew uneven. "It waits." He walked toward one of the black painted windows, placed his hand gently against the glass. "Would you like to know the first question I asked?" I nodded. "I asked whether death hurts." My heartbeat slowed. "What did it answer?" Samuel closed his eyes. I don't know. I frowned. You said you remembered every answer? I do. So? He opened his eyes. The answer no longer matters. I stared at him. What? He looked directly into me. When someone tells you the exact truth, your old questions die. You stop caring. You stop wondering. You stop imagining. His voice cracked. And imagination is what makes humans alive. The sentence lingered, long after he stopped speaking. I looked around the lighthouse again. Thousands of books, every subject imaginable, yet none of them looked opened recently. When was the last time? You read? Samuel looked confused. I don't remember. When was the last time? Or you laughed? Silence. When was the last time you loved someone? Nothing. His eyes slowly filled with tears. I don't remember. That frightened me more than death. The basement knocked again. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. This time, Samuel screamed, "No!" The sound echoed through the lighthouse. Then everything became still. A calm voice drifted upward, not loud, not angry, simply patient. Samuel, you still haven't asked your final question. Samuel collapsed to his knees, covering both ears. No, I won't. I won't. The voice answered gently. You already have. The lights inside the lighthouse died. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the recorder remained visible. Its small red REC light turned on by itself, without batteries, without power, recording. Then, for the first time since this nightmare began, the voice spoke directly to me. Ethan Carter. My entire body froze. You believe you are searching for death. Long pause. So did everyone else. Another pause. Longer. You are mistaken. Every instinct inside me screamed to run. Instead, I whispered, "What are you?" Silence. The darkness remained perfectly still. Then, for the first time, the voice laughed, softly, not cruelly, almost with pity. You are, 3 questions too early. The recorder continued spinning. Slowly, smoothly. No batteries, no power. Yet, the reels kept turning, the tiny red light reflected in Samuel's terrified eyes. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking behind me. Very carefully, I turned around. Nothing. Only darkness. Complete darkness. The doorway had disappeared. The staircase was gone. The windows no longer existed. The lighthouse had somehow become much larger than before, as if the darkness itself had stretched the room. Ethan, Samuel whispered. Don't move. His voice shook violently. I stayed perfectly still. What is it? He swallowed. I don't think it's speaking to you anymore. The sentence made no sense. What do you mean? His breathing became faster. I think it's listening. Silence, not ordinary silence, the kind that feels occupied, as though someone invisible was standing inches away, watching, waiting. Then, the recorder clicked. My own voice came through the speaker, clear, steady, calm. I have one question. My blood froze. I had never said those words. Not here, not ever. The recorder continued. When will I die? I stumbled backward. No, I never asked that. Samuel didn't answer. His eyes remained locked on the recorder. Then another voice, mine again. But if I already know, can I change it? Every hair on my arm stood up. I grabbed the recorder, pressed stop. Nothing happened. The tape continued. I opened the cassette door. There was no tape, empty, completely empty. Yet my voice continued speaking. Samuel slowly stood. I told you. It begins before you realize it. The recorder stopped. Silence. Then the calm voice returned. Ethan, you have been asking that question for years. No, I haven't. You have. I would remember. You remember. Using words. We remember. Using intention. A crushing headache exploded behind my eyes suddenly. Dozens of memories rushed through my mind. Hospital hallways, funerals, car accidents, crime scenes. Every interview, every investigation, every corpse, every single time. I had secretly wondered when my turn would come. Not aloud and never aloud, but somewhere deep inside, the question had always existed. The voice spoke again. You asked? You simply, never used your mouth? I dropped the recorder. It hit the wooden floor. No sound. The floor had become soft, like wet earth. I looked down. The wooden planks were gone. Black soil covered the lighthouse floor. Fresh footprints crossed it, hundreds, thousands, all moving toward the basement hatch. None. Returning? Samuel whispered. You can see them now. What are they? Everyone. Who accepted? Cold spread through my stomach. Accepted what? The invitation. The footprints weren't all human. Some were enormous. Some looked like claws. Some had no recognizable shape at all, yet every trail ended at the same place, the chained basement door. The locks began shaking. Not violently, gently, almost politely. Click. One lock opened. Samuel closed his eyes. It's happening again. Click. A second lock opened. No, he whispered. I've already answered. Click. The final lock released. The chains slid onto the floor by themselves. The hatch lifted slowly, no hands, no force, only gravity, working the wrong way. Instead of falling down, the heavy steel door floated upward. No light came from below, no darkness either. Only distance, impossible distance. I couldn't see the bottom. It wasn't a basement. It couldn't be. It looked endless. Then I heard footsteps, not climbing, descending. Someone or something was walking downward, away from us. Each step became quieter, farther away, until nothing. Samuel suddenly smiled, a real smile, peaceful. I know those footsteps. What? They're mine. I stared at him. What are you talking about? I've finally remembered. He looked younger again. Not physically, his eyes. The fear inside them was disappearing. I never came back. What? I thought I survived. He shook his head gently. No. I've been walking ever since. My heartbeat stopped. What? He looked directly at me. I died. 41 years ago? No. That's impossible. I've spoken to you. You drove here. You made tea. Samuel laughed quietly. So did you. The room spun. No. No. This is real. Is it? The voice interrupted. Calm as ever. Ethan, he has remembered. You still have not. Every wall inside the lighthouse began cracking, not breaking, opening. Behind every crack, I saw another room, another interview, another table, another empty chair, thousands of them, every room occupied by someone, alone, asking questions, speaking into silence. Some looked terrified, some looked peaceful, some were crying, some were laughing. None of them realized they weren't alone. I stumbled backward. What is this place? The calm voice answered. The waiting room? For what? A long silence followed. Long enough that I almost believed. It wouldn't answer. Then it spoke. For certainty. The recorder clicked once more. The red rec light turned green. A new sentence appeared, printed across its tiny display. Interview begins tomorrow. Samuel looked at me with tears in his eyes. You still have one chance. What chance? For the first time. Don't go looking for the answer. He slowly stepped backward, toward the open hatch. No! I reached for him. Our hands almost touched. Almost. Then, he smiled and allowed himself to fall. He didn't scream. He didn't resist. He simply fell into endless silence. The hatch closed by itself. Every lock snapped back into place. The chains wrapped around the steel door, as if nothing had ever happened. The voice spoke one last time, softly, almost kindly. Sleep well, Ethan. Tomorrow, we finally meet. I don't remember driving home. I remember opening the car door. I remember rain. I remember headlights passing through the darkness. Everything else was missing, like someone had removed several hours from my life. When I finally looked at my dashboard, the date had changed. One day, gone. The interview was no longer tomorrow, it was tonight. 3:17 a.m. My apartment looked untouched. Nothing had moved. Nothing had changed except every mirror had been covered. Black velvet. Exactly like the mirror from Illinois. Bedroom, bathroom, hallway. Even the tiny mirror inside the medicine cabinet, every one covered. I lived alone. I slowly uncovered the bathroom mirror. Nothing, only my reflection. Pale, exhausted, terrified. I sighed. Maybe I was finally losing my mind. Then my reflection blinked, half a second. After I did, my heart nearly stopped. I froze. It smiled. I wasn't smiling then. It spoke without moving its lips. Don't. The velvet cloth slipped from my shaking hands, covering the mirror again. I backed away until my shoulders struck the hallway wall. My breathing became shallow. That wasn't death. That wasn't even natural. I searched every room. Every mirror had somehow become covered again, even the one I had just uncovered. No footsteps, no sounds, no explanation, only black velvet. The clock on my microwave read 9:41 p.m. For the first time in days. Not 3:17. I almost laughed. Maybe it was over. Maybe. Whatever had followed me had finally stopped. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Silence. Long silence, then my own voice. Ethan. I nearly dropped the phone. It sounded exactly like me. Not similar. Identical. Who is this? My own voice answered. You've been preparing for this? Your entire life. The line disconnected. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again, unknown number. This time, my sister. I answered immediately. Ethan? Her voice trembled. I've been trying to reach you all day. I know. You disappeared. I was working. No, she whispered. You've been missing. Cold spread through my chest. What? The police came? They've been looking for you. For 2 days? I stopped breathing. What day is today? Silence, then she answered. October 22nd? Impossible. That couldn't be right. I had left Samuel's lighthouse. Yesterday, hadn't I? I opened my laptop. Every news website showed the same date. October 22nd, 2 full days. Gone. I remembered nothing. There was a knock. 3 slow knocks. Exactly 3. My sister stopped speaking. Ethan, someone's here. Don't answer. Too late. The knocking came again. Closer. Not the front door. The bedroom. My sister heard it. What? Was that? I didn't answer. The knocking continued. Knock, 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 then the calm voice still behind the bedroom door. You've arrived? Exactly on time, my sister gasped. Ethan, who's in your apartment? Nobody. She heard it too. For the first time, someone else had heard the voice. I don't know. You need to leave. I can't. Why? Because I already knew. Without anyone telling me. Without opening the door, without seeing anything, I knew. The interview had already begun. My sister started crying. I'm calling the police. No. They'll help? No. They have to? They can't. How do you know? I closed my eyes because suddenly I knew something else. With absolute certainty, no police officer had ever interrupted an interview, not once. The knocking stopped. The apartment became silent. My sister whispered, "Stay on the phone." I will. I walked slowly toward the bedroom. Every step felt expected, almost rehearsed, as though I had walked this hallway thousands of times before. I reached the doorknob. It was freezing cold. Behind the door, someone exhaled, slowly, patiently, waiting. My sister screamed through the phone. Ethan, Don't open it, I whispered. I have to. No, I have to. You don't. I smiled sadly. I already did. Silence. What? I just don't remember it yet. I turned the handle. The bedroom door opened. There was no bedroom. No bed. No walls. No ceiling. Only a single wooden table. 2 chairs. One occupied. One empty. The figure sitting across from me looked completely ordinary. A man, perhaps in his late 50s, dark gray suit, white shirt, black tie. No horns, no wings, no shadow, no glowing eyes. Nothing supernatural. His face was kind, tired, almost familiar. He folded his hands, looked directly at me, and smiled. Good evening, Ethan. I've been waiting. I swallowed. Are you? He nodded gently. Yes, I'm Death. He gestured toward the empty chair. Please, have a seat. I stood frozen. The chair remained empty. The man across the table didn't move. Neither did I. The darkness surrounding us felt infinite. No ceiling, no walls, no stars. Only the table, 2 chairs, and silence. The man folded his hands. I know what you're thinking. I swallowed. No, you don't. A faint smile appeared on his face. You believe that I'm Death. And now you're wondering whether you should trust me. A cold wave passed through my body because that was exactly what I had been thinking. Word for word. I pulled out the chair, but I didn't sit. Instead, I asked, how do I know you're really Death? The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked, how would you verify it? I frowned. What? If someone claims to be Death, what evidence could possibly convince you? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. There wasn't any. No certificate, no witness, no scientific test. Nothing. The man nodded. You see, truth cannot always be verified. Sometimes it can only be experienced. I remained standing. I'm not sitting. I know. You expected me to. No. His answer surprised me. I expected that you would hesitate. Another silence, long enough for me to hear my own heartbeat. Then the man reached into his jacket. He removed a small notebook, brown leather, worn by time. My heart skipped. It looked exactly like the notebook the old archivist had given me. He placed it on the table without opening it. You've seen one before? Yes. You read it? Yes. You ignored the warning? I looked away. Yes. He gently pushed the notebook toward me. This one belongs to someone else. I stared at it. Who? You. Every muscle in my body tightened. What? You simply, haven't written it yet. The room became colder. No. Impossible. It isn't. He slowly opened the notebook. Every page, blank, except the last one. There, written in handwriting I recognized instantly. My own were 6 words. I finally asked the wrong question and my breathing stopped. I never wrote that. Not yet. I stepped backward. The darkness behind me rippled. Not like water, like memory. Suddenly, I wasn't standing beside the table anymore. I was 12 years old. Hospital room, my father's hand, growing colder, his final breath. Then, darkness, another memory. I was 19, walking away from someone who loved me because work mattered more. Darkness. Again, I was 26, ignoring my sister's phone call to chase another story. Darkness. Again, 31, laughing at people who believed because I thought certainty made me stronger. Every memory, every regret, played without sound, without mercy. When the darkness disappeared, I was standing beside the table again. The man hadn't moved, not even once. What was that? My first question. I frowned. You never asked one. I did. When I showed you your own life. I stared. What was the question? His eyes met mine. What would you change if certainty had never become your addiction? I couldn't answer because I already knew everything. I'd call my sister more. I'd visit my father before it was too late. I'd stop chasing monsters just to prove they weren't real. I'd actually live. The man spoke again. Most people believe they fear death. He slowly shook his head. They don't. They fear unfinished life. Those words struck harder than anything I'd heard since entering this place because they felt painfully true. The man finally leaned forward. Now, may I ask my real first question? For reasons I couldn't explain, and I nodded. He looked directly into my eyes, not through me, not beyond me, into me. His voice became softer than before, almost compassionate. Ethan Carter, if I told you that you could leave here tonight and live for another 50 years, what would you do with tomorrow morning? I opened my mouth, ready to answer, then stopped. Because for the first time in years, I genuinely didn't know. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out, not because I couldn't speak, because for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about survival. I was thinking about living. Death never looked away. It simply waited, patiently, as if silence was part of the interview. Finally, I answered, I don't know. The words felt unexpectedly honest. I've spent so long planning for tomorrow that I forgot how to wake up today. Death nodded, not approvingly, simply understanding. That is the first truthful answer you've given yourself in a very long time. The hourglass shimmered. Another handful of black sand appeared, not falling, simply existing. I stared at it. You said time isn't measured the way humans believe. Correct. Then what is this? Death gently touched the glass without moving it. This is not your remaining life. What is it? The number of moments you were truly present. A cold chill passed through me. What? You count years. We count awareness. My chest tightened. So someone who lives for 90 years might have less time than someone who lives for 30? Death looked at me. Often. Silence settled between us again. Then, Death asked another question. When was the last time you watched a sunrise without thinking about work? I searched my memory. Nothing. When was the last time you called someone for no reason, except that you loved them? Nothing. When was the last time you laughed without recording it, sharing it, or remembering it later? Nothing. Each question removed another piece of the man I thought I was. Death folded its hands again. You believe you've been collecting memories. You haven't. You've been collecting evidence. The sentence landed like a knife. Because it was true, every haunted house, every demon, every cursed object, every impossible interview. I hadn't experienced them. I documented them. There was a difference, a terrible difference, and you don't fear dying, Death continued. You fear discovering that you never actually lived. I lowered my eyes. For the first time, I couldn't argue. A warm breeze crossed the endless darkness, the first warmth since arriving. Somewhere beyond the table, that I heard birds singing, very faintly, very far away. I looked toward the sound. There was still nothing. Only darkness. What is that? Death listened. Morning. There isn't a sunrise here. No. There is one where your body is. My heartbeat stumbled. My body? Death nodded once. You are sleeping. I thought this wasn't a dream. It isn't. Then where am I? You are exactly, where every human comes. Without remembering. A strange pressure built behind my eyes. What do you mean? Every night, your body sleeps. Your mind wanders, but something deeper always comes here. I frowned. No, I would remember. Death smiled gently. You never remember. The waiting room. The words echoed inside my head. The waiting room. Samuel had said the same thing. I looked around. The endless darkness, the table, the chair, the hourglass. How many people are here right now? Death answered immediately. Everyone. A chill spread through my spine. What? Every living person passes through. They simply wake before remembering, I whispered. Then why do I remember? Death didn't answer. Instead, it looked toward the darkness behind me. Its expression changed. Not fear, recognition. We're no longer alone. Every instinct in my body screamed not to turn around. I remembered the mirror, the third rule, never turn around. I kept my eyes on Death. Who's behind me? Death remained silent. Tell me. Silence, please. Still nothing. For the first time, Death refused to answer. Then, I heard breathing. Slow, heavy, unnatural. Not Death's, not mine. Someone was standing directly behind my chair, close enough that I could feel warmth against the back of my neck. I clenched my fists. Should I turn around? Death finally spoke, very quietly. If I answer, the interview ends. What? You must decide without certainty. I understood for the first time there wasn't a correct answer, only my choice. I closed my eyes. The breathing behind me grew louder. A familiar voice whispered, "Ethan." It wasn't my father. It wasn't my sister. It wasn't Samuel. It wasn't the devil. It was my own voice. Exactly like the phone call, calm, patient, almost compassionate. Turn around. You've always wanted to meet yourself. Death never moved, never interrupted, never warned me. It simply watched, waiting to see what I would choose. I didn't turn around, not immediately. I closed my eyes. Slowly, I inhaled. The breathing behind me matched mine. Exactly. Every inhale, every exhale, as though whoever stood there was practicing being me. You've always wondered, my own voice whispered again, what you would become if fear disappeared. The words settled deep inside me, not because they were frightening, because part of me wanted to know. Death remained perfectly still. Its hands rested calmly on the table. It didn't interrupt. It didn't help. It simply watched, waiting. I finally spoke. If you're really me, then tell me something. Only I would know. Silence then. The voice answered. You still blame yourself for not answering your father's final phone call. Every muscle in my body locked. I had never told anyone. Not Samuel, not my sister, no one. My father had called me 43 minutes before the accident. I was editing a video. I rejected the call, planning to return it later. Later never came. A tear rolled down my face. Who are you? The voice laughed softly, not cruelly, almost sadly. I am every version of you. That certainty destroyed. The room became colder. Death finally looked at me. For the first time, you've asked the correct question. What does that mean? Death answered. There is only one interview. You believed you were interviewing monsters? You believed you were interviewing me. Another pause. You've always been interviewing yourself. I frowned. No, I don't understand. I know. You aren't ready. The breathing behind me stopped. Completely. Silence. Then I felt something touch my shoulder. Warm fingers. Human fingers. Not cold. Not supernatural. Warm. Exactly like my own hand. Every instinct screamed, turn around just once, see, no, be certain. The temptation was almost unbearable. Death quietly asked, Ethan, why do humans always look back? I whispered. To understand. Death slowly shook its head. No. To eliminate uncertainty. The hand disappeared. The breathing returned. Closer now, almost against my ear. You already know. What you'll see? My own voice whispered. So why pretend? You're afraid? Because I was. Terrified. Not of death, of certainty. If I turned around, there would be no imagination left. No mystery, no hope. Only knowledge. Absolute knowledge. Death gently pushed the hourglass toward me. The black sand had stopped moving. Every grain remained suspended, frozen, waiting. It cannot continue. Until you choose? What happens? If I turn around? Death remains silent. What happens if I don't? Again? Silence, no answers. For the first time, death refused certainty. I smiled, a small smile, almost invisible. Then, I slowly removed my hand from the edge of the chair, placed both palms on the table, closed my eyes, and said, "I'm done asking." Everything stopped. The breathing, the warmth, the voice, the endless darkness, even the hourglass. For several seconds, nothing existed. Then, death smiled, not politely and not sadly, proudly. The interview is finally beginning. My heartbeat stumbled. What? You spent your entire life asking the universe to remove uncertainty. It never could. You finally stopped asking, and because of that, you've become the first person to pass. The entrance. Cold spread through my body. Entrance? Death nodded. What we've discussed was never the interview. It was only the invitation. The table disappeared. The chairs dissolved into darkness. The hourglass shattered without making a sound. Around us, thousands of tiny lights ignited. Not stars, doors, each one floating in endless blackness. Millions, perhaps billions. Every door slightly different. Wood, stone, glass, iron. Some ancient, some modern. Some impossibly beautiful. Others terrifying. I stared in disbelief. What are those? Death stood for the first time. They are lives. My chest tightened. What? Every human life begins by choosing one? I slowly looked toward the nearest door. A child's laughter echoed behind it. Another door contained distant thunder. Another, soft piano music. Another, someone crying. This, I whispered, is impossible. Death looked toward the endless horizon of doors. No. This is possibility. Then its voice became quieter, almost solemn. And possibility is something even it cannot control. For the very first time, I saw uncertainty in death's eyes. And that frightened me. More than anything I had experienced before, I couldn't speak. Billions of doors, stretching farther than imagination, each one a human life. Not identical, not predetermined, different, completely different. Death walked slowly between them. Its footsteps made no sound. I followed. The nearest door was made of old oak, carved into its surface one word, mercy. Another door made entirely of black iron. Its only inscription, regret. Another white marble, forgiveness. What are these? I asked. Death rested one hand against the oak door. They are not destinations. They are beginnings. I frowned. I thought every life already happened. Death looked at me. That is how humans experience time, but not you. No. Then how do you see it? Death smiled gently. As music. I stared. What? You hear one note after another? I hear the entire symphony. The answer lingered inside my mind. Beautiful. Terrifying. We continued walking. Thousands of doors passed beside us, each carrying a single word. Hope, pride, loss, wonder, joy, silence, home. Every word felt strangely alive, as though each one breathed. Finally, we stopped before a small wooden door. Unlike the others, it had no inscription, only scratches. Hundreds of tiny scratches, as if someone had desperately tried to get out. I pointed toward it. What happened there? Death didn't answer immediately. Instead, it asked, "What do you believe free will means?" I shrugged. Making choices. Death nodded. Partly. Then it opened the door. Inside, I saw myself, 7 years old, running across a field, laughing. No cameras, no mysteries, no interviews, just life. My mother chased me through the grass. My father laughed. The wind carried the smell of rain. For several seconds, I forgot everything else. Then, the memory froze. My younger self looked directly at me, not through me, at me. He smiled, then asked, "When did we stop smiling?" The door closed. I couldn't breathe. My eyes filled with tears. That wasn't a memory. Death looked at me. No, it was. But memories don't speak. Most don't. The important ones never stop. We continued walking. I noticed something strange. Every few seconds, one of the doors disappeared, another appeared somewhere else. The endless hallway was changing. What are they doing? Death answered quietly. Humans are choosing. You mean right now? Yes. Every decision creates another possibility, so the future, isn't fixed. Death stopped walking. Slowly, it turned toward me. For the first time, its expression became almost sorrowful. I never said, "I know the future." My heartbeat stopped. What? I know. Every ending. I do not know which path you will choose to reach it. Everything inside me went still. You don't know? Death slowly shook its head. No. If I did, choice would not exist. Suddenly, everything made sense. The devil had known truths, the mirror had shown certainty, but death had never once forced an answer. It only waited, because even death could not predict a free decision. I whispered, "So, you're not the most powerful being?" Death smiled. "No? What is?" It looked past the endless doors toward a darkness even deeper than before. Then it answered, "The next interview." Before I could ask another question, every door slammed shut simultaneously. The sound echoed forever. Boom, 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 billions of doors. One impossible thunder. The ground beneath us trembled. For the first time, death stepped backward, Not from fear, from respect. Something was approaching, not from ahead, not behind, from every direction at once. The darkness itself began breathing, slowly, deeply, like an ocean. Taking its first breath, death lowered its head, not to me, to whatever had arrived. Then, without looking away, it whispered, "Ethan, I cannot go with you any farther." A pressure unlike anything I had ever felt settled over the endless hallway. The billions of doors began opening, one by one, not outward, inward, as if someone on the other side was opening them, waiting, watching. The darkness inhaled once more. Then, a voice, not loud, not quiet, not male, not female. A voice that seemed to come from every memory I had ever had. It spoke only 4 words. "May I interview you?" The question echoed, without sound, without direction, without ending. "May I interview you?" Death lowered its head. For the very first time, it looked small, not weak, not frightened, simply respectful. I looked at Death. "What is that?" Death answered quietly. "I don't know." My heart stopped. "You don't know?" "No. You've never met it?" "I have." "Then who is it?" Death remained silent for nearly a minute. Finally, it whispered, "I have never survived an interview." The sentence hit me harder than anything else. Death could die? No, that wasn't what it meant. It couldn't be. The darkness continued breathing. Every inhale pulled memories from my mind. I saw my childhood, my father, Samuel, the mirror, the devil, the abandoned cabin. Everything, every memory floated away, like smoke. "No," I whispered. "Stop." The breathing ceased immediately. The voice returned, gentle, almost compassionate. "You may refuse?" I blinked. "What?" "You are not required to answer." I frowned. Then why ask? A long silence followed, long enough that I thought it had disappeared. Then one sentence, "Because consent creates truth." Death closed its eyes. "As always, the first answer changes everything." I swallowed. "Who are you?" The darkness answered, "I did not ask for your question. I asked for your permission." The realization struck me hard. Every creature I'd interviewed had answered immediately, and the devil, the mirror, death, every one of them accepted my questions. This was the first being that respected my choice. I took a slow breath. Then I answered, "Yes." Nothing happened. No explosion, no light, no scream, only silence, complete silence. Then every door vanished. Every trace of the endless hallway disappeared. Even death was gone. I stood alone. Inside a small room, white walls, wooden floor, 2 chairs, 1 table, a tape recorder. Exactly like every interview I'd ever conducted. Except this time I wasn't behind the recorder. I sat in the interview chair. Across from me, the other chair remained empty. Not for long. Someone entered, not through a door. The room simply accepted its existence. At first, I couldn't understand what I was seeing. It changed every second. An old woman, a little boy, a soldier, a priest, a homeless man, a nurse, a murderer, a newborn baby, a blind musician, thousands of faces flowing together, none lasting longer than a heartbeat. Then it settled on me, exactly me. Same age, same clothes, same scar above my left eyebrow, same tired eyes. It smiled. I apologize. Its voice was mine. I find familiar faces more comfortable. I stared. What are you? It folded its hands. I ask questions. That's not an answer. No, it isn't. The tape recorder clicked. Aryek? Without batteries, without power? The other Ethan looked directly into my eyes. The interview has now officially begun. I leaned forward. You still haven't told me who you are. It smiled. You already named me. When? When you were 14. I've never seen you before. No. But you described me. My pulse quickened. I don't remember. You called me Curiosity. Every hair on my body stood upright. No? Yes. You believed curiosity was something you possessed. It isn't. It possesses you. My breathing became uneven. No. That's impossible. Is it? You followed demons. You followed haunted mirrors. You followed death. You ignored family. You ignored love. You ignored peace. Not because anyone forced you, but because I kept asking. The room became painfully quiet. You mean you're inside my mind? The other Ethan shook his head. No. Your mind is inside me. The sentence broke something inside me because suddenly, every obsession, every impossible decision, every dangerous investigation, every time I'd chosen the unknown over the people who loved me, made horrifying sense. The other Ethan leaned closer. I have only one question, I whispered. What is it? Its smile disappeared. For the first time, it looked genuinely serious. If I removed every mystery, from existence, who would Ethan Carter be? I opened my mouth. Nothing. No answer. Not one, because without mystery, without questions, without the impossible, I didn't know who I was. The recorder continued turning, softly, patiently, waiting. For the first answer I could not give. I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't know, because for the first time I realized I had never asked myself who I was without the hunt. The other Ethan waited. No impatience, no pressure, only silence. The recorder continued turning, softly, steadily. Every rotation sounded like another heartbeat, mine. Finally, I whispered, I don't know. The room trembled, not violently, almost with relief. The other Ethan smiled. That is the first answer? That belongs to you? I frowned. What do you mean? For years, every answer you accepted came from someone else. The devil. The mirror. Death. The archivist. Samuel. You believed truth always arrived from outside. He slowly shook his head. It doesn't. The walls around us faded, not disappearing, becoming transparent. Beyond them, I saw countless versions of myself, thousands, millions, each living a different life. One Ethan never became an investigator. He taught music. His children laughed around him. Another stayed beside his father. On the day of the accident, his father's death still came, but the regret never did. Another married, another became a priest, another died at 19, another never found the mirror, another never searched for demons. I couldn't stop watching. Were all of these possible? The other Ethan nodded. Yes. They all began with one different choice. My voice cracked. Which one is real? He looked at me. They all are. They all existed until you chose. A terrible thought entered my mind. So every decision kills another life? For the first time, his expression became solemn. No, it completes one. The endless versions of me began disappearing, one by one, not dying, simply returning to silence until only one remained. Me, standing exactly where I was. The other Ethan folded his hands. Ethan Carter, you've spent your life believing certainty creates freedom. It doesn't. It creates smaller worlds. I slowly sat back. Then what creates freedom? He answered immediately. The courage to live without complete answers. The sentence echoed through every memory I had. The devil wanted certainty. The mirror promised certainty. I had begged death for certainty. Every road led toward the same prison. The recorder suddenly stopped. The silence that followed was heavier than anything before. Then, a new sound. Applause. Very distant, very slow. One pair of hands. Clap. 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 I looked around. Who's there? The other Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he stood. For the first time, as he did, his appearance changed, not into a monster, not into light. His face became every person I had ever interviewed. The devil, the thing inside the mirror, Samuel, the archivist, even death. Each face appearing for only a heartbeat, then another, until finally there was no face at all, only a silhouette, the exact same silhouette I had seen when the old archivist disappeared. My heartbeat slowed. It was you. The silhouette nodded. I wore the face you trusted most at each stage. You were the devil? No. You were the mirror? No. You were death? No, I was the question that allowed you to meet them. Every puzzle piece locked into place, the interviews, the invitations, the notebook, the coordinates, none of them had been random. Something had been guiding me from the very beginning, not toward death, toward this room. The silhouette asked quietly one final question. Its voice no longer sounded human. It sounded like every voice I'd ever heard. Every age, every language, every memory, all at once. If I erase everything you have learned and return you to the morning before the first invitation, would you still choose curiosity? Tears rolled down my face because I already knew my answer. Not because curiosity had destroyed me, but because without it, I never would have learned that life was meant to be lived, not solved. I smiled for the first time, without fear. Then I answered, yes. The silhouette closed its eyes, as if that was the only answer it had hoped I would give. The room began to disappear, and somewhere, very far away, I heard my sister's voice. Ethan, oh, wake up, wake up. My sister's voice, soft, broken, desperate. Ethan, please, wake up. Light pierced my eyes. Pain exploded through my skull. My lungs filled with air so violently, I almost screamed. I was lying in a hospital bed, white ceiling, monitors, IV lines, the smell of antiseptic, exactly like the room where my father died. Someone squeezed my hand. I turned slowly. My sister, Emily, crying, actually crying. When she saw my eyes open, she collapsed against the side of the bed. Oh my God. I thought I lost you. I couldn't speak. My throat felt raw. Instead, I looked around. Doctors, nurses, machines, everything. Perfectly ordinary. Maybe it had all been a dream. The devil, the mirror, death, the interview. Maybe the brain tumor had finally broken my mind. A doctor approached. Ethan, I nodded weakly. You've been unconscious for 72 hours. 3 days, he continued. We honestly weren't sure you'd wake up. My sister laughed through tears. You scared everyone. She hugged me carefully. I don't care about work anymore. I just wanted you back. Back, the word echoed strangely. Back from where? The doctor smiled. You'll recover. The surgery went better than expected. I frowned. Surgery? You don't remember? I slowly shook my head. You collapsed. The tumor caused severe bleeding. We operated immediately. Tumor, the diagnosis. Everything suddenly returned. The headaches, the dizziness, the MRI. It had all been real. So, I lived? The doctor smiled. Yes. You were lucky. Lucky. Death had never used that word. Hours passed. Visitors came, friends, neighbors, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Every one of them simply happy that I was alive. Not one of them cared about haunted mirrors or demons or impossible interviews. They only cared about me. Late that evening, my sister sat beside the window, watching the sunset. She smiled. "You know, I've never seen you. Sit still." I laughed quietly. I don't think I ever knew how. Silence, comfortable silence, the kind I had forgotten existed. Then she asked, "What are you thinking about?" I looked outside. Orange light covered the city. Birds crossed the sky. People walked home, ordinary, beautiful. I'm thinking that I spent years trying to understand death. She nodded. And I forgot to understand life. She reached over, held my hand. Neither of us spoke again. We didn't need to. 3 weeks later, I went home. Not to unpack cameras, not to edit footage. The first thing I did was remove every black velvet cloth from every mirror. One by one, each reflection looked normal, just me. Older, more tired, but alive. I boxed up every piece of investigation equipment, tripods, recorders, night vision cameras, spirit boxes, everything. And the garage looked strangely empty, yet for the first time, my house felt full. People online noticed my disappearance, thousands of messages, questions, theories, conspiracies. One message appeared more than any other. "When is the next interview?" I stared at the screen for a long time and then closed the laptop without answering. Months passed. Life became unexpectedly quiet. Morning walks, coffee with Emily, watching rainstorms, reading books, without searching for hidden meanings. Sometimes peace feels strange when chaos becomes familiar. Then, on the morning of November 1st, I woke before sunrise. The date caught my attention immediately. November 1st, the date. Death had spoken. I checked the clock. 6:42 a.m. Nothing happened. 7:13 a.m. Nothing. 10:05 a.m. Still nothing. By evening, I smiled. Maybe the future really could change. Maybe choice mattered. At exactly 11:59 p.m., someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. Knock, monte, knock, mon, knock. My smile disappeared. Emily looked toward the front door. "Were you expecting someone?" I slowly stood. "No." She started walking toward it. I stopped her. "I'll get it." Every step felt familiar, painfully familiar. I opened the door. No one. Only a small package, wrapped in plain brown paper. No address, no postage. Only my name, Ethan Carter, written in handwriting. That looked exactly like mine. Emily frowned. "What is it?" "I don't know." But I did. Somewhere deep inside, I already knew. I carried it into the kitchen, placed it carefully on the table for several minutes. Neither of us touched it. Finally, Emily whispered, "Open it." I slowly untied the string, folded back the paper. Inside, there was only one object. An old cassette tape, black plastic, no label, no fingerprints, no dust, perfectly clean. I turned it over. On the other side, written in silver ink, were 6 words. Interview 2 begins when ready. Emily looked confused. What does that mean? I couldn't answer. Because for the first time since waking, I heard it again, not outside, not behind me, inside my mind. A calm, familiar voice, softly whispering. There are interviews, even death. Cannot attend. The lights flickered once. The cassette player, across the room, turned on by itself. The play button slowly pressed down. The tape began turning. Static filled the kitchen. Then, a voice neither Emily nor I had ever heard before spoke a single sentence. Hello, Ethan. This time I'd like to introduce you to life. 3 months later, life became quiet, not empty, quiet. I stopped chasing haunted places. I stopped answering anonymous emails. I stopped searching for things that wanted to be found. Every morning I walked, every evening, and I watched the sunset. Sometimes Emily would laugh just because I was finally home. I never realized how beautiful an ordinary day could be. People kept asking, "When's the next interview?" I never replied. There wasn't going to be another one. Not after death. Eventually, I opened the storage room. Every camera, every microphone, and every recorder still sat exactly where I'd left them. Dust covered everything except one recorder. The old analog recorder. The one from the lighthouse. It looked brand new. I frowned. That wasn't possible. I picked it up. No batteries, exactly as before. I smiled, then placed it on the table. I'm done. I don't need answers anymore. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a soft click. The recorder started playing. Not recording, playing. My own voice filled the room. Ethan Carter. I froze. The recording continued. If you're hearing this, you survived. My hands began shaking. I had never recorded those words. Never. The tape continued. You finally learned that life isn't a mystery to solve. It's a gift to experience. I slowly sat down, unable to breathe. Then, the recording changed. The room became silent. For nearly 20 seconds, nothing, absolute silence. Then, another voice, not mine, not Death's. A voice I'd never heard before. Calm, ancient, almost impossible to describe. It asked only one question. Did he choose? Silence. Death answered. He did. Another pause. Then the unknown voice spoke again. Then let him forget the rest. The recorder stopped. I stared at it for several minutes, trying to understand, trying not to understand. Finally, I smiled, reached over, opened the cassette compartment, and removed the tape. I walked outside, toward the lake behind my house. The sun was setting. Orange light covered the water. I held the cassette for one last moment, then dropped it into the lake. It disappeared beneath the surface without a sound, without regret. That night I slept better than I had in years. The next morning I woke before sunrise, made coffee, opened the living room curtains, and smiled. For no reason at all. Months passed, then years. Doctors were wrong. The tumor never returned. No explanation, no miracle, no headlines. Just life. Sometimes late at night, I still dream of the lighthouse, the endless hallway, the doors, death. But every morning those memories fade, like mist beneath sunlight. Perhaps they're only dreams now, perhaps they always were. I don't know. And for the first time in my life, I don't need to know. If you're listening to this recording, you're probably expecting me to tell you whether death was real, whether the devil lied, whether the mirror still exists, whether heaven is waiting, whether hell is real. I can't answer, not because I don't know, because those answers would become your certainty, and certainty has a price. A price I will never ask anyone else to pay. So instead, I'll leave you with the only truth that ever mattered. One day, death will find you, not because it hates you, not because it is cruel, but because every story needs an ending. The question isn't when, the question isn't how. The only question that truly matters is this: when death finally sits across from you, will it discover that you spent your life preparing to die, or that you were too busy living to notice it coming? Absolute silence. I never uploaded the interview, not because I was afraid, because some stories should never become evidence. Life slowly became ordinary, exactly the way I wanted. Almost a year passed, the nightmares stopped, the headaches disappeared, even the date death had spoken became just another memory. For the first time, I truly believed it was over. One rainy evening, and Emily was visiting friends. I stayed home alone. Coffee, a quiet house, soft rain against the windows, nothing unusual. While cleaning the attic, I found an old hard drive. My investigation archive, hundreds of recordings, haunted houses, abandoned churches, fake possessions, everything. I almost threw it away. Almost. Instead, I connected it one last time. Folders appeared across the screen. Case 01, Case 12, Case 47. And one folder I had never seen before. No date, no name, only interview. I frowned. I never created that folder. Curiosity almost made me delete it. Instead, I opened it. One video, no thumbnail, no duration. I clicked play. The screen showed the lighthouse exactly as I remembered. The recorder, the table, the chair, me. Sitting alone, asking questions, then waiting. Long, uncomfortable. Silence exactly like the tape. No second voice, no shadow, no movement, nothing. I smiled. Maybe the doctors had been right. Maybe everything really had happened inside my own mind. I reached for the mouse to close the video. Then something changed, not in the room, on the screen. My reflection inside the old lighthouse window slowly turned toward the camera. My real body never moved. I froze. The figure on the monitor looked directly at me, then it smiled, a slow, impossible smile. Exactly 1 second after I did not. Every light in the house went out, complete darkness. Only the monitor remained. Its pale light filled the room. The video had ended. The screen was black. I could only see my own reflection, nothing else. I slowly reached to shut the monitor off. Then my reflection raised its hand. I didn't. It gently placed one finger against its lips, as if asking for silence. Then it whispered, without making a sound. The interview never ended. The monitor turned black. The room fell silent. Outside, the rain stopped. Absolute silence.